Welcome to the AI Hustle Podcast, the podcast where we break down the latest in AI news, tools, and interview experts helping you hustle and do more using AI. If you've been following the podcast for a while, you'll know that over the last 6 months, I've been working on a stealth AI startup. Of the hundreds of projects I've covered, this is the one that I believe has the greatest potential. So today I'm excited to announce AI Box. AI Box is a no-code AI app building platform paired with the App Store for AI that lets you monetize your AI tools. The platform lets you build apps by linking together AI models like ChatGPT, Midjourney, and 11 Labs. Eventually, we'll integrate with software like Gmail, Trello, and Salesforce, so you can use AI to automate every function in your organization. To get notified when we launch and be one of the first to build on the platform, you can join the waitlist at aibox.ai. The link is in the show notes. We are currently raising a seed round of funding. If you're an investor that is focused on disruptive tech, I'd love to tell you more about the platform. You can reach out to me at jaden@aibox.ai. I'll leave that email in the show notes.
Something that's pretty common we see with a lot of big tech companies is they will come out with a new product, and if it doesn't get a lot of adoption, they'll kill it. Google's probably one of the most famous examples. They've killed a ton of products. There's Google Buzz, there's Google Plus. They recently are killing Google domains, so many ones. Today, we want to talk about OpenAI's foray into this because OpenAI, up until this point, doesn't really have a massive product line. They don't have tons of stuff. And so when they, typically make things, we see it stick for a while. They're, a startup. They're trying to be really innovative and fast. Even products that I think are absolute garbage, like DALL-E 2. And when I say absolute garbage, I mean, I guess I'm being spoiled. I think it's impressive if, when it came out, but really at the end of the day, compared to some of their competitors like Midjourney, I feel like they're just getting absolutely crushed. So I think that there definitely is space. Well, they have a lot of funding, so I think they actually just spend more money and make their products better. But that aside from that, today we want to talk about on the podcast, OpenAI shutting down one of their most recent products they launched not more than just a few months ago, why they're doing that and what the implications are. And this is actually the text classifier product they made that essentially was able to classify if text was AI generated. So let's jump into the podcast today. I think the idea that AI generated text can exhibit certain characteristics that would allow for reliable detection, while initially this was very plausible, it's actually proved to be a lot more complex than OpenAI originally anticipated. So I think the rapid advancements and nuances in a lot of these LLMs have made any telltale signs very elusive to the point of unreliability. And this is something I have predicted for a very long time. So originally, last summer, around a full year ago, I began using different AI article generating tools to generate articles for my for some products, for some SaaS companies, for some of my websites that I have. And I was using that just largely for SEO to drive more Google traffic. Now, the problem was at the time, Google was a lot more anti-AI. They said, if we detect it's AI, it's going to be bad for your search results, blah, blah, blah. Or at least there was a rumor of that happening. So at the time, I would use tools and software like Quillbot that would essentially take your AI-generated text. It would kind of rewrite the article or swap words out of the article or rearrange things a little bit using AI. But the idea was it did it in kind of a more random, sporadic way that made the text undetectable. And at the time, there was a number of AI detection software and tools that I was using. If you got something by OpenAI generated, at the time it wasn't ChatGPT, it was DaVinci. But if you got something generated by DaVinci, which is more of a developer API tool anyways, but you threw it into one of these platforms, it would tell you this is AI generated. And then if you threw it through Quillbot, it would say this is not AI generated. So the idea was you throw everything through that and it would, it would make it so that it wouldn't be detectable. Then, of course, the concern was, well, eventually Google's going to figure that out and they're going to figure out a way to see what is generated through Quillbot, whatever. And it's going to be this cat and mouse game forever. That was my assumption. And then we started to see some of the big shoes drop. And the first one was Google saying, look, we know that this AI tech is so big, it's going to proliferate into everything. We're not going to demote content that is AI generated. We're actually not even going to look at it anymore. We don't care. All we're going to do is, if it's high quality, we'll keep it. If not, it dies, just how it's always been. So if you create a high quality piece of AI content, it's just going to stick. I think this is really interesting because this concept kind of proliferates into everything with images and video and everything else. It's going to be the same, right? Like eventually we're going to have AI generated YouTube channels and people will be like, oh man, should Google ban them? Nope. YouTube, I think they're going to follow precedent with their Google search and they're going to say, if it's a high quality video, it's going to get shown. If not, it's going to just, die in the algorithm. The same death everyone else faces. So, and I think images and Google search, Google is trying to do AI image classification in their Google images. So that will be interesting to see how they roll that out. But it doesn't appear that they're really being able to do that in text. I think text is particularly difficult because with image, it is one file. You can identify it as AI. But with text, what if you used, you generated the intro of your article with AI and maybe the outro or maybe some frequently asked questions in the middle, but the rest was all hand generated? How is Google supposed to determine, okay, they used any AI in this thing, kill the whole article, make it not rank? Or, for example, maybe you wrote an article, but then you go use an AI that comes up with really good titles and descriptions for your article or generates good SEO metadata. And all of a sudden, Google would have to determine if it was going to get killed. And so it really just became this big mess that Google didn't want to play with. And they said, we are out. But before that, there has been this whole controversy of, teachers worried that their students are using AI and they really wanted to detect it. And so in this whole controversy, mostly I think from an academic perspective, everyone worried that AI was going to essentially corrupt the young minds of the children today, so they're never actually going to learn anything. I'm not saying if that is or isn't the case or isn't reasonable. That was a concern, and it was a big talk with ChatGPT. And I think OpenAI wanting to be the responsible player in the room and show how their, AI is responsible and good and not wanting bad press was like, okay, well, guess what? We are going to make a tool that detects AI. It's an AI, text classifier. We got this thing. We got you teachers, or anyone else worried about, I don't know really who else is too worried about it, because in business, if it sells the product, it sells the product and no one really cares that much. But in school, it is a problem, right? So they came out with this tool, which is the AI classifier, and it immediately got sort of roasted. Honestly, I never found it very good. I had a lot of other AI tools that worked much better. But the biggest problem with this AI text classifier is that it would give you false positives. Now, there's a bunch of big stories where, teachers essentially they tried to fail the entire classroom because they said, all of you guys are using AI to generate your thing. And the teacher actually didn't really know how AI worked. I think he just copy and pasted essays into ChatGPT and say, did you write this? And ChatGPT said, yep, I wrote that, to everyone's essay. And then he tried to give everyone an F. So it's kind of silly. But also at the end of the day, I think just if it gives a false positive, can you imagine being a student working really hard on a paper, submitting it, and then them being like, this is AI generated because this software that isn't perfect said it was, and it wasn't? Oh my gosh, that'd be horrible. So anyways, they're killing it. I think it wasn't effective enough. It didn't know enough. I think the fact that Google kind of let go of the reins on that and said, we're not even going to try, makes it a lot harder for anyone else to have any sort of accountability in this space, because there's so many different AI tools. I even know there's tools that are, there's, for example, 11 Labs has an AI detector where they're like, yeah, we can detect if someone generated some audio content on 11 Labs, but it doesn't detect it if they generate it on a different audio platform. And if they generate it on 11 Labs and maybe change the pitch and tempo a little bit, which people have been doing for, music copyright stuff on YouTube for many, many years, then it's not detectable either. So it's essentially not that useful if there's any sort of altercations or it's on a different platform. And I think that's the same problem with OpenAI. Maybe they'll be able to eventually make their thing good enough that it could detect AI-generated content from ChatGPT, but what about Claude? And what about all the other models, Anthropic and Inflection, and everyone else is going to make? I think eventually this is perhaps a losing battle. And so because of that, they have made the decision to actually kill this. So in a series of tests that were actually conducted by ChatGPT, they actually highlighted the nature of these AI text detection tools. Out of 7 AI crafted texts, OpenAI classifier correctly detected only 1 compared to GPT-0's 5, right? So there's 2 different tools that TechCrunch was testing there. GPT-0 was able to get 5 of them. OpenAI's classifier only actually got 1 of them. I think this kind of mediocre performance is a massive, downside for OpenAI. It was pretty embarrassing, especially when they're releasing this product is definitely not state of the art, and other startups are doing this more reliably and better. So I think they had to kill it. I think really interestingly is, despite the clear limitations outlined by OpenAI when they first released their classifier tool, many people continue to use it at face value, or even beyond. So users, tried to identify AI written content in the work of students, job applicants, freelancers, and they really put their faith in this classifier, even though I think they said like, hey, this is just this is just a testing tool. And obviously this thing was not very good. So I think amid all of the constant improvements and spread of language models, someone at OpenAI seemingly decided that they needed to pull the plug on this tool. It was not reliable, so they decided to kill it. And this is what they actually said. They said, we are working to incorporate feedback and are currently researching more effective provenance techniques for text. And this was first reported on Decrypt. But in any case, inquiries regarding the exact, reason and timing for discontinuing this are yet to be addressed. I don't think they really brought that up, but I think that the decision really coincides with OpenAI's involvement in kind of this whole White House-led voluntary commitment to developing AI ethically or ethical transparency that's going on right now. And I think one of the commitments that these companies have made includes the development of some really robust watermarking and detection methods for AI-generated content. So it's kind of interesting because right now, while they're making all these commitments that they're going to start detecting more AI-generated text, and they're going to the White House and whatnot, they're also pulling the plug on this tool. I think it's because they know this tool does not meet the standards that they actually need for their tool. So I think for the last half of the year or so, last 6 months, I think the AI community has really witnessed a lot of talk, but not a lot of tangible progress on watermarking, right? We have some commitments from Google that they're working on that for their images. We haven't seen that a lot. And so I think it's going to be, I honestly think it's going to be a massive problem. It's going to be very difficult to figure out. I think Google, Microsoft, OpenAI, I think these companies are the only ones that even have much of a chance. Maybe they'll be better tech, but here's the deal. Google has indexed the entire web, and they have records of all their indexing, images, videos from YouTube, and of course, articles. And at some point, they can say, OpenAI launched their first version of AI-generated text at this point. Therefore, we can assume everything on the internet from before that was probably human-generated. And I think having that data set is the solution. That is the final key to being able to determine. And I think it's interesting because not a lot of people have this data. I think there's a handful. So I'd be really curious to see how this plays out. Who is the winner in this, AI detection space? Is going to be very lucrative, right? These people are all making big promises, big companies making big promises to the government. They better deliver. And so I think whether it's a startup or internally, there's going to be a lot of money put into this space. And this is going to be a very interesting place and space to continue following in the future.
If you are looking for an innovative and creative community of people using ChatGPT, you need to join our ChatGPT creators community. I'll drop a link in the description to this podcast. We'd love to see you there, where we share tips and tricks of what is working in ChatGPT. It's a lot easier than a podcast, as you can see screenshots, you can share and comment on things that are currently working. So if this sounds interesting to you, check out the link in the comment. We'd love to have you in the community. Thanks for tuning in to the AI Hustle podcast. If you could do us a massive favor, we would really, really appreciate it if you could leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. This helps people find the podcast. It helps people know this is a good place to go. And we would really, really appreciate it, as it helps us continue to bring on incredible guests and share incredible content for you to listen to.